Welcome everyone to Podcast 69 South, where we cuss and discuss true crime, cold cases, current events, and hot topics, along with our state of society today. This is your trigger warning. Our podcast content is produced for adult listeners 18 years of age and older. We discuss situations that may be offensive and triggering to some listeners. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Chop, your host for the day today, and riding shotgun is my beautiful co-host, Julie.
Hello. Happy New Year.
Today we're going to be talking about the rise and the horror of the 764, as it's called and known by who's heard about it.
It's like a cult.
Happy New Year, everybody, for one.
So today we're going to be tackling a story that's as chilling as it is urgent. The rise of 764, a decentralized network of violent online extremists founded by a teenager from rural Texas. This group has been classified as a Tier 1 terrorist threat by the FBI and a terrorist entity by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. We're going to cover the timeline, the founder's story, what investigators uncovered, heart-wrenching accounts from victims and parents, and crucial advice for keeping your kids safe.
That's right. This isn't just a tale of one person's descent. It's a wake-up call about how platforms like Discord and Telegram can become hunting grounds for predators. We'll draw from our court documents from Bradley Cadenhead's case, forensic findings, and real voices from those affected. Listener discretion is advised. This episode discusses child exploitation, self-harm, and suicide.
So let's start with the man at the center. His name is Bradley Chance Cadenhead, born on August 21st, 2005 in Stevensville, Texas, a small town known as the cowboy capital of the world with dairy farms and a population of about 20,000 people. From the outside, his life seemed ordinary, but cracks appeared early.
Yeah, court records paint a picture of a fractured childhood. By age 8, Bradley was exposed to online pornography, escalating to violent gore videos at around age 10. The same year, his parents, Heather Snyder and Jeff Cadenhead, divorced in 2015. He shuttled between his homes, his mom's and his dad's. Heather struggled with alcohol, leaving him unsupervised, while Jeff tried to provide stability. A post-conviction evaluation by Dr. Marissa Morrow diagnosed him with bipolar disorder, generalized anxiety, and behavioral issues possibly stemming from reported sexual abuse by a family member.
School was no refuge. He was bullied relentlessly. Bradley said he was an easy target. He had breakdowns, and he dropped out of high school after making threats, which included plans to harm others, that landed him in a juvenile justice center. By ages 13 to 15, so that would have been from 2018 to 2020. He immersed himself in online communities like CVLT, pronounced cult, on Discord, learning sextortion tactics. Dr. Murillo noted his psychological maturity lagged, making him vulnerable to blurring fantasy and reality.
Now let's fast forward to late 2020 or early 2021. At age 15, inspired by CVLT, but wanting to take it to a whole new different level, a lot worse level, as he later admitted in his precinct's investigation. Bradley founded 764, named after Stephenville's zip code, which is 76401, not to be confused with the 76 crap that's going on nowadays.
I think it's 67. Or
67.
Is it 67?
It's 67. Anyway, there's a lot of people getting that mixed up, but honestly, it has nothing to do with it. But 764 started on Discord under the alias like Felix or Brad 764. He positioned himself as a cult leader, creating hierarchies where members and victims recruited and coerced vulnerable teens.
Now, the group's ideology is a toxic mix of nihilism, Satanism, and neo-Nazi elements from the Order of Nine Angels. They target kids aged 10 to 17, often those with low self-esteem, mental health issues, or from marginalized groups like LGBTQ plus youth. Platforms include Discord for core ops, Telegram for chats and recruitment is via Roblox, Snapchat, Instagram, Kick, and even Minecraft. Initial contact is friendly chats to build trust. And then the demands escalate to explicit content, self-harm like carving cut signs of CP764, which means child porn 764, or Brad is a pedo, into these victims' skin. Animal abuse and live streamed violence.
And we're not talking, folks, like how some of us was in school and maybe took a paper clip or a staple and kind of scratched your girlfriend's name into your arm or something dumb, something like that would go away. These were wounds that needed to be stitched up. I mean, gashes. Some of the pictures are just horrific. But Bradley described 764 in his pre-sentence investigation report as like a cult. They were worshiping me, he said. Servers averaged 200 members sharing CSAM of toddlers and preteens being slapped, stomped, choked, mixed with gore like infant castration or manipulated deceased bodies. They used doxing, swatting, and cyberbullying to control victims. Refusal, threats to families, or public exposure is what he used.
So he was basically built this little army of people who wanted to go out and coerce these victims into recruiting more people and self-harming themselves and them, and they're being exploited like that. They're passing these videos that they make them post around these servers. I mean, it's like real live predators on the internet preying on your children who are using these apps. I mean, somebody could just send you a message, hey, how are you? I seen your profile. And some young kid, they're so naive. They're like, oh, hi, thanks, I'm so-and-so. And then it all starts from that there.
I think it's insane that one little picked on bullied boy, if he actually was bullied, you know what I mean, could derive so much pleasure out of seeing somebody go through so much pain. That's one of the things that really gets me.
I remember reading in this article that he was like 10 years old when he watched his first gore video. I think it was of like somebody killing an animal or something. And he said it literally made him physically sick. And he ran home and puked. And was like disturbed for a few days about it.
Just like we always talk about people with this C-spam and the sexually molesting kids. It's like dope to them. The first time you do dope, it makes you sick, you know what I mean? And then just somehow it just grabs a hold of you. This is just like a drug to these people.
So under Bradley's lead, 764 splintered into offshoots like 676, CVLTIST, Court, Cash Car, which is spelled KASKAR, Harm Nation, Leak Society, Hell, which is H311, and later 8884, collectively called The Calm. By mid-2021, it was international, but the horrors didn't stay hidden at all.
And I think the calm meant basically the community of all these little groups together.
Right.
So let's hit the timeline here. March through May of 2021, Bradley's alleged offenses peak, involving possession and promotion of child pornography. June of 2021, NCMEC gets cyber tips tracing CSAM to his IP at Heather's home. August 25th, 2021, Stephenville, Texas police execute a search warrant. They seize his laptop and phone. I want to make it clear here now, he wasn't just, as we'll find out later in some of this court documents, he wasn't just passing these videos around. He wasn't just a middleman for these videos. He was coercing a lot of people to do these horrific acts, whether they be self harm or child molestation or child porn. So, I mean, it gets a lot deeper. Stick around.
Now, what investigators found was stomach turning. Forensic analyst Kathleen Hickey from Texas DPS uncovered hundreds of files, explicit videos of children abused, intermixed with pornographic gore, like infants being castrated or choked. Discord evidence tied it back to servers labeled 764. Users' name like Felix in chats showed doxing, coercion for self-harm, and in live streams. So they would also make these little girls or little boys get on live streams and self-harm, and while all these people would watch in the same room.
Like a computer group, like a big,
like a Facebook Live,
right,
but in
a
this
horror party on screens where they could hide in their rooms.
Exactly. And if these kids didn't do what they wanted them to do, they would threaten their family. They would threaten to expose whatever videos they had sent being under coercion or anything like that. Now, I imagine in the beginning they're not so much so bad videos, maybe a selfie or something like that, but they manipulate these kids into becoming their friends, whether it's romance or just, hey, I'll protect you from these bullies or whatever, but then they get them to send, maybe a little bit.
They had a whole system about it too. I'm sure we'll get into that later, but they found a book online on how to groom these kids.
Yeah, they posted a
by
group.
step. Yeah, step by step, how to turn, and it was detailed too. It was how to turn a vulnerable 14-year-old girl from normal to
a victim
to really messed up shit
to being an abuser.
Right, exactly. It's disgusting. It was calculated, to say the least.
Captain Lanier said, I've never seen any individual get as many complaints against him as Bradley. It wasn't just possession, it was manipulation above typical child pornography. For example, evidence included photos of at least 20 different minor girls performing sex acts with bodies bloodied and branded with phrases like I heart CP764.
Now, Bradley was only 15 years old at the time, and he was arrested for 62 counts, 31 third-degree felonies for possession of child porn, and 31 second-degree felonies for promotion of child porn. Depictions included children under 18 in deviant sexual intercourse or lewd genital exhibitions. Released on $62,000 personal recognizance bond with conditions like parental custody, no leaving Erath County without permission, avoiding drugs and alcohol, and notifying probation of any changes.
On June 21st, 2022, there was a petition to transfer this case to adult court, which was served July 28th, 2022. Juvenile court waives the jurisdiction after a hearing, and the factors that went through was his sophistication weighed against transfer, but history, public protection, and low rehab prospects favored this transfer to adult court. The judge noted that juvenile facilities wouldn't rehabilitate Bradley, so the case moves to the 266th District Court.
Jump forward to September 22nd, 2022. Grand jury indicts on 9 counts of possession with intent to promote. March 27th, 2023, at age 17, Bradley pleads guilty. No deal. Open plea hoping for leniency. May 16th, 2023, the punishment hearing. Testimonies from Lanier, Hickey, evidence text Jeannie Perimeter Stidham, who feared Bradley's charisma. The therapist, Sarah Trevino. Judge Jason Cashin reviews the pre-sentence investigation and 40-plus minutes of videos, sentencing to 80 years, 4 consecutive 20-year terms, plus minimum 40 years of parole, plus probated term, fine, community service, lifetime registration as a sex offender, and, quote, significant depravity, he said Bradley fostered.
So appeals followed November 2nd, 2023. Direct appeal was dismissed. Then in 2024, a habeas petition claims that Bradley received ineffective counsel. Lawyer Lucas Lawrence didn't get a forensic psych evaluation, and Dr. Mario's report suggests rehab potential with treatment. That's crazy to me that a doctor. She stated that, I believe, because he was only 15 or 17 and there was a chance for rehabilitation. But I don't even see how you could rehabilitate a mind that's been like that for all those years.
No, I agree. And as we'll get into some of this paperwork, you'll also find out that this counselor that was given some of this investigation, she had only been a counselor for a very small amount of time. And in the paperwork on some of these appeals, she was clearly unaware of some of the intensity of the crimes and the photos and the actions that he was involved in and promoting.
Yeah, like she just thought he was this young kid who maybe had some child porn images on his devices. That's really what she thought.
Yeah. Now, you would think, we talked about this, you would think somebody investigating somebody that got this amount of time, the first thing they would do would be go through the evidence package, see exactly what they're dealing with before they even walk into the room. They need to know the answers to the questions that they're going to be, asking before they, just like a lawyer would.
Right. So parole was denied on May 29th, 2025. His next review hearing is in May of 2026. And Bradley is at Estelle Unit in Huntsville, Texas. No, that's Alabama, isn't it?
Huntsville,
because
Alabama. Yes, ma'am. But 764 lives on, with the FBI investigating over 350 subjects as of early 2026. Recent developments in December of 2025, Alex Aldair Chavez, a San Antonio-based leader of Offshoot 8884, pleaded guilty to a racketeering and child exploitation charges. The DOJ has charged at least 37 people tied to these networks. Now, the human cost. Let's hear from the victims and the parents.
One heartbreaking story, Colby and Leslie Taylor's 13-year-old son Jay coerced into suicide in 2022, in which he live streamed. Colby told ABC News, quote, "I couldn't live with myself for not making this push now, making it public, because it's modern-day terrorism," end quote. They waited 3 years for justice, pushing platforms in Congress to act.
Another parent, Christina, spoke to the BBC about her teenage daughter. Quote, "My daughter stopped sleeping. She stopped eating. As a mom, I felt alone. I was scared. I was helpless and hopeless." Unquote. She added, "I watched my mother get diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer and fight for her life, and it was not as hard to watch it as it was to watch my daughter deteriorate." Christina tried getting her to block them, but I was not seeing the level of the influence that was already there and the level of fear. They absolutely just beat her down to make her feel she is absolutely nothing without them or with them.
A Canadian father recently lost his 15-year-old daughter to suicide after she was exploited by the group for at least 2 years. Victims often described building trust first, then exploitation. One survivor in an FBI PSA noted predators build trust with their victims and later coerce them into sharing personal information and explicit pictures and videos. Another from a CBC report, coerced into self-mutilation and sexual abuse, feeling trapped, is a really good article that people need to go check out.
Now, in one case, a mother said of her daughter, who was targeted at age 15, amid anxiety and depression, they wanted her to take her life, and she was terrified. These stories highlight why awareness is key. Parents, watch for the signs: sudden withdrawal, mood swings, unexplained injuries like pattern cuts on their thighs or arms, neglected appearance, changes in eating and sleeping, pets acting fearful, red flag online obsessions with a friend or group, secretive device use, interest in gore or extreme content.
So there's platforms are Discord, Telegram, Roblox, Snapchat, Instagram, Kick, where predators are posing as peers. They start friendly and then they blackmail for these things they call tributes, which is essentially self harm or CSAM or animal cruelty, pictures, photos, videos, live streams. And what they do is they desensitize their victims or with all of this violent content.
Now, on devices, check for those apps. Servers with 764 or symbols, black and white aesthetics, satanic/neo Nazi icons, scan chats for strangers, coded terms like cut signs or tributes, demands for photos, galleries of self harm images, and use parental controls. Monitor history, don't spy, build trust through talks.
Now,
And spy.
yeah, and spy.
And spy,
You better
for
keep an
sure.
eye on all of them. So resources that helped us, come with this episode was the FBI Parents Guide, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children CyberTipline, DHS's Know2Protect. Now, if you think you see activity or suspicious activity, you need to report it immediately.
It's really important to be vigilant about these things, listeners, because it's literally mind blowing how these kids that are being
Brainwashed.
the time limit. It's literally could be days or a week or just a couple of weeks. I mean, we've seen some longer, but it's happening so fast.
Couple of hours.
Yeah, we've seen that too. I mean, when the only thing that kids are having to do is be online, and that's their whole world online. For some reason, they're thinking that is the actual world outside, and that's how I think it's being portrayed in their own, undeveloped minds. We wanted to tell you a couple of the things that we heard. We heard on, I think it's Sean, what's his name?
Sean Ryan's podcast.
Sean Ryan
They
podcast.
talked about it, but
They talked about too, but there was videos of they had talked a kid into pouring gas on himself and burning himself. There was videos of young men killing elderly women. They located an image that depicted an infant being castrated on the laptop. They located several images of iHeart CP764, which we talked about.
With multiple victims carving the stuff that they tell them into their bodies. There was even a 15-year-old girl who had carved stuff into her private areas, like so deep that she had to go to the hospital.
Yeah, her interview's out there, and you can find it. And they also talked her into. She also had a plan. I didn't mean to skip around right there, but she had a plan that she was actually gonna kill her mother, and they tried to talk her into killing her cat, but she ended up chopping her hamster up and eating the dead hamster. And they also told her, I mean, they really had this poor little girl brainwashed. They talked her into getting into the bathtub and cutting herself until the water was literally red with blood. There was also images of oral sex occurring where young females performing oral sex on post-pubescent penises. There was images of multiple people, some adults and some children of multiple children, all unclothed, engaging in sexual acts.
Disgusting.
There was an image found of an infant being choked by an adult. There was also another image of a crying baby with a pillow over the baby's head and being stood on. There was videos of an adult male smoking heroin and doing it for this Brad 764. Also, besides all the images that we've already talked about, there were images of prepubescent teens.
Infants.
Yeah, infants. There was kids that haven't even reached puberty yet being slapped, stomped, smacked, hung from ceilings. I mean, it's some super violent shit, man. And this dude's even lucky that he got an appeal trial or like a second chance. That's what he was trying to get, because once you plead guilty to something, you can't really bitch about your counsel being ineffective. I mean, counsel didn't say, go ahead and plead guilty. You plead guilty and you admit to all them crimes. I mean, what you get is what you get.
Yeah, Bradley basically threw himself at the court's mercy because there was so much evidence stacked against him of all these things he did. That was the right choice in my view. I mean, he didn't cost everybody for a trial or this and that, and he got a pretty severe punishment.
He sure did. Now, Bradley's story is that he was from bullied teen to cult leader, and he thinks that shows how trauma, unchecked access to the internet devastate
everybody.
It does, everybody. But knowledge empowers. And that's why we're here at 69 South, trying to give you all a little bit of knowledge, man. Sometimes just take a little bit of time out from your day instead of giving your kids a tablet. And I know it's so easy. I'm not dogging anybody at all. Just make sure you're watching what your kids are doing. Make sure the messages are off. If you are going to let them play these games, make sure it's not connected to the internet. Double check, triple check everything. And, I really wonder if this dude was even bullied. Honestly, after going through these court transcripts
of how heinous these things were.
Yeah, and how he tried to say that he was running all this material and doing all these things for the gratification and to keep the attention of the people in the community, as it's called. And I kind of think that's bullshit myself. I get that he got this grandiose feeling of being the, quote, king of 764 and all that shit, but I just don't see how somebody could enjoy the pain on others just to get notoriety from a couple other weirdos on the internet.
I completely agree.
We support you here at 69 South, and if you'd like to support us and help us keep the lights on in the studio, go to
www.patreon.com /
Until then, folks,
69 South.
We have some really good episodes coming up. But like I said, until then, have a good day, good evening, whatever.